up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Amelia Bennett and this is a new type of video. What? So for the first time in my life I thought maybe it would be fine to do something that isn't a vlog or a book review or a wrap up, and this is what I came up with. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about my top 5 favorite tropes and make book recommendations based on them, just in case they might be other people's top 5 favorite tropes. So yes, this is what I'm doing. Also, another note, I am filming in front of my bookshelves. The way I am doing this is by stacking the tripod with my phone on top of the tripod for the camera and hoping that it doesn't fall down. So that's fun. Let's see how that goes. I've also put on makeup because I'm trying to be professional now, I guess. This happens once every 3 videos where I'm like, I'm gonna try properly, and then I don't after that at all. So without much further ado, let's get going. Number 5. So number 5 is, I think the term for the trope is orange and blue morality. I am not entirely certain, but it's also like not just that. I want to talk about unconventional morality in general. And the book that I am using to talk about that is, very predictably, Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. This is one of my favourite books of all time. You already know that though, so I don't expect this to come as a surprise. But essentially, this book is about an angel and a demon trying to stop the apocalypse, and that is how I've been pitching it the entire time, and yes. Anyway, so the reason why I really enjoy this trope is because unconventional morality is just so interesting to me. I want to write it. I want to read it. I have an entire novel in the works about some bad guys who ended up being immortal and now don't want to be bad guys anymore. I really love this trope so much. And I love the fact that it's got the angel and the demon who are like supposed to be polar opposites morality-wise, who are actually kind of similar in the way they behave and the things that they do. Like, I think it's so interesting, and I also think that this is a really funny and hilarious and light-hearted read, and it was just the best way to start my year this year, and I am so happy that I read it. But yeah, Good Omens. Go read it, you guys. Number 4. Interspecies romance. So I don't actually have a physical copy of the book that I want to recommend for this, but it is the Summoner series by Taran Matharu. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Just making sure I'm centered. I absolutely adore this series. This series is about a group of people who can summon demons to help them fight in battles. And that sounds a lot more anime than it ends up being. Actually, it is quite anime, but like in a good way, if that makes sense. It's like good anime. We'll go with that. It's like good anime. But essentially the main character, Fletcher, he has 2 friends, and they are an elf and a dwarf. And first of all, like, let's talk about my history with, all of this Tolkien. I'm very used to interspecies romance and relationships and things like that, so obviously this is going to be the trope that I am the biggest slut for. Actually, it's not, but it's only number 4. Let's carry on. But I am a massive slut for this trope, and I just enjoy it so much. And the fact that this series has literally got that human, elf, dwarf trio, even though it's not the same, is still like enough for me to go, oh yep, that's exactly right up my alley. So I love it. Obviously, I think the romance is meant to be between the main character Fletcher and the elf, but you can really decide. There's just great friendships, great bonding, great romances all around, and I just absolutely adore this series for, like, it's got this amazing exploration of the way that different people's cultures affect the way that they interact with each other, which I think is one of the best things in the world. If you're gonna have different fantasy races, they're gonna have different cultures, and they're gonna interact with each other differently. And it really manages to explore the dynamics between these different people at the same time, as well as exploring the dynamics between the noble upper class and like the lower classes, and like the different conflicts within the nobility. And it's just incredibly nuanced in a way that I really didn't expect from like a fantasy adventure story. Like, Like, I genuinely wasn't expecting it to be so, like, interesting, just, like, from that perspective. So I really, really, really recommend it for anyone who is interested in that kind of politics, in that kind of stuff. I just, yeah, it's great. Trope number 3 is anti-establishment plots, by which I mean not plots as in storyline, but plots as in they're plotting to destroy the establishment. And I could bring up another book for this trope, but I'm actually going with The Six of Crows duology by Leigh Bardugo. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this duology and not another series, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going, why aren't you, the answer is right there, is because this has a very interesting take on it, and it also has this heist aspect to it, which I absolutely adore. Like, it's just one of my favourite plots of all time. So essentially, book 1, you only really need the summary, book 1 if you haven't read it, is these group of criminals are contracted by someone from the government to break into an impenetrable fortress, the Ice Court, to break out a prisoner who has the secret to this mystical drug, which is apparently going to change the world. And I really enjoyed it. I thought that this was one of the best duologies I've ever read. I love it. I think I read it last year. It's one of, like, I love it. It's so good. But essentially, the way that this trope presents itself is initially they are working again, like they're working with one person to help the government, but in the second one, they're working against the government. And I don't want us to talk too much about that, but the way that they execute all of their plots and their things is just so interesting and amazing, and it all comes together, and like it's so satisfying. And there are bits of the story where I literally cheered out loud because it was just that, like, but yeah, I really, really, really recommend Six of Crows. Go read it immediately. You will thank me later. So number 2 on this list, idiots who don't realize they're in love with each other. This is such a guilty pleasure trope, and I actually have 2 books to recommend for this, and that is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Elliott Science, and Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. Actually, in both of these stories, it's only really one of the characters who doesn't know, but I still think that that is incredibly good. It's like the aspect of it that I particularly enjoy is these characters not realizing themselves, but all of the people around them being able to tell, like that. That's what I like. So this story, Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, is about 2 teenage boys, I think in 80s Mexico, not Mexico, in 80s Texas, I'm not sure, who become friends over a summer. And yeah, it's a contemporary, there's not much else like dramatic going on, but it's incredibly good. And it's such an interesting exploration of what it's like to be LGBT, and also what it's like to grow up as part of a marginalized group and all of that stuff, and like the dynamics within Latina or Latinx families, which I think, obviously I'm British and white, so like I don't know much about that, so it was really interesting to read this other's perspective on the world and life, and it was just so good. I absolutely adored this series. This is supposedly going to be a series. I don't know when the next book is coming out, but apparently it is. So let's hope. But yeah, this is an amazing book. I 100% recommend it. You know the drill. But yeah, Carry On is essentially based on Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. It is the story of 2 of the characters from Fangirl who go to a magic school and who fight off this magic-y creature called the Humdrum, I think, and how they're kind of dealing with that, but also dealing with relationships and all kinds of stuff, their friendships and things, and it's just incredibly good. I absolutely enjoy it, and the plot twists in this are actually really interesting. I was not expecting them, which I didn't expect that kind of intense story from this. So yeah, I am like really happy with this. There is also a sequel to this one coming out later this year, which I am so excited about, and yeah, I really recommend this if you are into the trope. that I admit. Finally, at number 1, I want to talk about, obviously, anyone who knows me is gonna go, yeah, this is obvious, the found family trope. And for that, I am going to bring up the book that you were all cursing me for not talking about earlier. The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, which is book 1 of the Mistborn trilogy. I think it's a trilogy. Let's hope I got that right. It's so good, you guys. Like, I genuinely, absolutely adore that series so much. I've only read the first book. I don't know why I'm saying series. It's such a good book. Like, it is a bit slow in parts, but we can ignore that for how good the book is. But yeah, like, I want to talk about this one specifically because the found family aspect is so integral to the story and the way that the characters behave and the way that they change and the dynamics and everything. And it is what puts them in the positions that they need to be in for the story to occur. And it's absolutely amazing and I love it so much. And yeah, it's also, I don't want to spoil anything, but I do cry over this at some points. Like, as I was reading, there were bits where I got to it, I was literally in tears, like, sobbing. Because, and that doesn't happen often, so that was like, but I was literally sobbing over this book in parts because 1, of the strength of that trope, 2, the things that I wasn't expecting to happen, and 3, like, just the bonds that they have with each other, the relationships, the friendships, the found family. I was just blown away by how amazingly written it was and how good the story ended up being and how, like, integral the characters' relationships are to the story, which is something that you don't see a lot. And yeah, I'm not going to be over it anytime soon, so yeah, catch me talking about Final Empire for 3 years before reading the next book. But yes, so that's the end of the video. Let me know down below what your favourite tropes are and if you have any recommendations based on them, and also if you have any recommendations based on the tropes that I mentioned, because I am always willing to integrate these tropes more into my life, to absorb them into my being, to become one with them. Yes. So I thank you all for watching. I will see you all next time. I no longer have an outro. Goodbye.